Good evening. Welcome to the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education meeting for April 30th, 2018. Can I have a motion to go into executive session for the matters pertaining to the employment history of particular individuals and contractual negotiations?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You know what happened?
So that's part of our warm-up on stage. We actually get up on stage in a school that we don't know, and there's two judges in the audience, and they're not people who love us like you guys. They like us, but they don't know us enough to love us yet. And so they are writing things down about how to help us, and that's what we're going to go do. So that's part of our warm-up. And then the first piece is called Iowa Spring.
All those in favor? Aye. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Yorktown Central School District Board of Education meeting for April 30th, 2018. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance given by Emma and Asiel, and then remain standing for a moment of silence for our armed forces and those in our community who have lost loved ones, especially remembering the sister-in-law of Joseph DeGennaro and the brother of Rosemary Bizzaro.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hatter, it looks like Mohansis has come to visit us.
Hello, everyone from Mohansic. I think we have some second grade guests here with us this evening. So I'd like to welcome our second grade students. I'd like to also acknowledge Mrs. Berry, Mohansic School Principal, and the faculty and staff who are here. Can you just please rise to be acknowledged? Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. Mrs. Kelsey, I'm excited to hear a little bit about Rosie Rovere, engineer.
Good. Dr. Hatter, thank you so much for having us. And Board of Education, we're excited to be here. So Mrs. Berry has brought her second graders here for you tonight, and they are going to share a little bit about a story that they read called Rosie Rovere, Engineer, and also a show that they went to at the Tarrytown Music Hall about this book and some of Rosie's friends, right? And the cool thing about this book is it's about second graders. And Rosie is a second grader. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you.
Hello, my name is Cleo, and I'm from Mrs. Day's class.
Hi, my name is Tyler Katzenberg, and I'm from Miss Ragney's class.
Hi, my name is Cole Bartosik, and I'm from Mrs. Young's class. Hi, my name is Emma Donnelly, and I'm from Mrs. Young's class.
Hi, my name is Avery Pearl, and I'm from Mr. Dwan and Mrs. Dorenzo's class.
Hi, my name is Kian Murphy, and I'm from Mr. Dewan and Dorenzo's class.
Hi, my name is Ayla Ben, and I'm from Mrs. Ragney's class.
Hi, my name is Asayo from Mrs. Day's class.
Hi, my name is Cindy Satterelli, and I'm from Mrs. Indelkio's class.
Hi, my name is Cooper Constantine, and I'm from Mrs. Interlakio's class.
Okay, here we go.
Rosie Rovere Engineers, the story about Rosie Rovere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. Rosie is a second grader who likes to construct great engines from odds and ends. But she is afraid that her inventions aren't good enough, and she hides them away. Then one day, her great-great-aunt Rose comes to tell Rosie about how she built airplanes a long time ago. Rosie decides to try and invent a machine to help her aunt fly.
Rosie works hard to build a cheese copter, but when she tries it out, it flies for only a moment before it crashes. Rosie is upset, but her great-great-aunt Rose teaches her that her brilliant first flop wasn't something to fear, it was something to celebrate. This helps Rosie learn that she can learn from her failures.
After reading Rosie Revere, Engineer, our class decided to work as a team and write an acrostic poem. The first day of writing, we spelled out the words Rosie Revere and talked about words or phrases that went with each letter in Rosie's name.
The next day, we went back to our writing and read it, and revised our poem to get it just right. It was important to have all our words reflect who Rosie was. Here is our poem.
R. Rosie recycles and creates gizmos. O. Opposite of a quitter. She's persevered to be successful. S. She is smart and brave. I. Interested in building gadgets. E. Empathetic to others.
R. Really creative. E. Enjoys making inventions. V. Very determined. E. Enthusiastic dreamer. R. Ready to work with a team. E. Engineering is her game.
Each second grade class read the book Rosie Revere, Engineer, and then we went to see a live play about the book at the Tarrytown Music Hall. This was called Rosie Revere and Friends. After seeing the play, our class made a Venn diagram to compare the similarities and the differences between the book and the play. In Rosie Revere, Engineer, Rosie is the main character. She works by herself to build a gizmo to help her Aunt Rose fly. It flies for a short time, but then crashes to the ground.
Do you want me to hold it for you?
Yeah. In Rosie Revere and Friends, Rosie and her second grade classmates go on a field trip and get stranded on an island. Iggy Peck, architect, and Ada Twist, scientists, are two second graders in Rosie's class who work together with Rosie to find a way to build a bridge to get off the island. The message in both the book and the play was the same. Whether you work alone or as a team, you should follow your dreams and never give up, even if things do not work out the first time.
Good job. Okay.
Second graders love to write stories. We are especially good at writing personal narratives. After we read the story and saw the show, the students in Miss Radney's class and Mrs. Day's classes decided to do some writing. We thought about the main character, Rosie, and compared her to ourselves. We also talked about ways that we would like to be like her.
We saw our work this year in the E-Steam shop and how we've been engineers like Rosie or even scientists like Ada Twist. We'd like to share those stories with you now.
Okay, so this is Ayla's story about how she's like Rosie Revere, Engineer.
I am like Rosie Revere, Engineer, because I never give up. For example, in Steam Shop, I was working on a chair and I kept trying and trying. When my brother laughed at my creation, I almost gave up in making stuff. Then I noticed that mistakes are okay. Also, I am very creative. Once I made a Lego town out of Legos. I always use my imagination. I am very smart. Rosie really inspired me, and that's why I'm like Rosie Revere, Engineer.
Okay, and here's Tyler's story, how he's like Rosie.
I want to be like Rosie because I enjoy inventing and being creative. Plus, when I grow up, I want to be a robotics engineer. I learned from my mistakes. I am also like Rosie, because I have a great imagination. Rosie inspires me to be an engineer.
So here's Asael. He's going to tell how he's like Rosie.
I'm like Rosie Revere because I'm an engineer. I built a chair in the steam shop. I built the chair in 3 steps that the chair is like my body. The first step was to build the frame. I built using cardboard. The frame of the chair is like the bones of my body. The second step was to make the chair comfortable and cushiony. I used wrapping bubbles. The cushiony part is like muscle and fat on my body. The third step was to cover the chair. I used cloth. The cloth is like the skin on my body. Building a chair makes me an engineer like Rosie Revere.
Okay, and now Cleo is going to read about how she was like another character, Ada Twist, who's a scientist.
When we went to see the play, Rosie Revere, engineer, I'm a lot like Ada Twist. I almost like everything she likes. I like animals, science, math, and experiments. I have a lot of questions. I am curious about the world. That's why I chose Ada Twist as the character I am most like. My dad is a scientist. For my 5th birthday, we had a science birthday party. We did lots of cool experiments with my dad. We filled a zipper bag with vinegar and baking soda. Then we zipped it up and threw it on the deck. The bag exploded because the chemicals bubbled up and wanted to escape. Steam escaped from the bag. Ada Twist would have really liked this experiment. That's how we are alike.
Good job, you guys. You can go to the end. Okay, step right up here. Good job. You want me to hold it? Do you want me to hold that?
Rosie and her friends taught us so many great lessons.
After reading the book and seeing the show, our class brainstormed a list of what we thought were the most important messages that Rosie and her 2nd grade friends were trying to teach us.
Here are some lessons we learned.
Never give up.
If you dream it, you can do it.
Always be yourself.
Always be proud of yourself.
Rosie said 2nd grade is the prime time to build your dreams.
The 2nd graders in Rosie's class sang a great song called Don't Hold Me Down.
Here is our favorite quote from the play.
So all the 2nd graders want to gather around to say this one. Your favorite quote from the play. Are you guys, Emma, get in there, Emma. Okay, here's their favorite quote. 1, 2, 3.
Life might have its failures, but Rosie was not it. The only true failure comes if you should quit.
Good job. So, very good. Now, there's just one last thing the 2nd graders want to share with you. And that is, we thought it would be nice to ask them, how did they like a show at the Tarrytown Music Hall? Should we ask the Board of Ed members how many of them have been to the Tarrytown Music Hall? How many of you have been there? It's a beautiful, beautiful theater. So we thought it would be nice if they reflected a little bit about what it was like to be in a theater like that. So we're going to start. Ready? Here we go, Tyler.
The theater was old-fashioned and very fancy.
The ceiling in the Tarrytown Music Hall was very high, and the sound echoed.
The ceiling had beautiful designs on it.
I sat on top of the theater and looked down at the stage. It was cool.
The senior on the stage was very neat.
I like seeing the actors make the story come alive. Some parts were really funny.
Most of the actors were adults pretending to be second graders and other characters from the story.
I thought the live performance was very creative.
Instead of seeing it on a page in a book, seeing it on stage was like 3D.
The play was very entertaining.
And that's what they thought about that play. Boys and girls, you did a very good job. So we hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about this great book, Rosie Revere, Engineer, and a little bit about the experience of going to the play, which was really kind of cool to read a book and then to go watch it come alive on stage. So we hope you enjoyed the good news from Mohansick.
Boys and girls, that was absolutely wonderful. You did such a nice job, and I learned two very important things from you that I hope you'll take with you for all of your years here in Yorktown and after you leave our high school. It's okay to make mistakes. Never, ever give up, and always be proud of yourself. And that's what I heard you say, and that's what it sounds like you learned from this book. So I hope you take that with you forever and ever and ever. You did so well, and you know what? I'm proud of you. Nice job, boys and girls.
Thank you, Dr. Hatter. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, no,
So I'm.
Go ahead. I just want to thank all of Mohansick. No, Ms. Kelsey, thank you, because you always bring such wonderful students to us, so thank you. We appreciate all your hard work.
We
And
have wonderful students at Mohansick.
I know.
Very easy.
We have wonderful students throughout the whole district.
Sure do.
And we have wonderful staff members, so we thank all the staff members who came in, too. Thank you, Mrs. Barry, as well.
So, having a second grader myself, I know that it's already 7:30 and you have bedtime, so we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess to allow you to depart for the night. Thank you and have a great evening.
We are up to public comment. Is there anybody wishing to speak on agenda-related items only? Is it on the agenda? It's an agenda-related item? What is it on?
Oh, she said she doesn't know the agenda.
That's fine. Okay, come on up. Just please state your name. Yeah.
Here, thank you. Hi, my name is Ann McKeown. I'm the secretary for First Nighters here at Yorktown. I'm here with Janine Diorio, also a member. For those of you who may not know, First Nighters is a parent organization whose sole purpose is to raise money and support the performing arts in Yorktown. Yorktown has an excellent reputation for its music program, and I know we're losing 2 teachers this year, Mr. Tarente and Mr. Arduini, who have spent their careers building this reputation here in Yorktown. We would like to wish them, first of all, much happiness in their retirement and thank them for a job well done. The First Nighters do have one question about what the timeline would be for replacing these teachers. We noticed that the positions aren't advertised on OLAS. Last time it was checked. And our concern is if we wait too long to fill these positions, the pool of applicants will be greatly depleted, and we won't be getting the kind of teachers Yorktown has built its reputation on. Our other concern is that if we wait too long, we won't have the students around to do demo lessons, which is such a crucial part of that interview process. And then in the hiring process, if we want exceptional leaders for the performing arts of Yorktown, we want to make sure that this gets done in a timely manner. So we're just concerned about the timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Anybody else wanting to speak? Wait, agenda-related items? Because we go through the entire, okay, if nobody else wants to speak, then you want to discuss the timeline? It's not a discussion, so we can't ask you to talk again afterwards.
So I certainly appreciate and respect the fact that we're losing two very, very wonderful teachers from our music department, Mr. Tarenti and Mr. Arduini. So in terms of the process moving forward, it's similar to the process that we have for all of our teacher hirings, and we always want the best in every position that we're filling. So we have posted the positions internally as well as on our Apple Track system, which is a separate system than OLAS. We do tend to also post on OLAS, so I will double check to see if it is there. Once that goes in place, we usually keep the postings up for a week or two. The principals begin to bring their committees together, which will include other teachers as well as other administrators, and start bringing in people to interview. So I can't speak for the principals, but I believe within the next couple of weeks we'll be bringing in candidates to interview.
Okay. We're up to our education report.
Good evening. Dr. Hatter and I wanted an opportunity to share with you a little bit of a follow-up to some of what we've been doing with the strategic questions that were posed at the start of the school year. And really this is to update you on where we are as a district in considering and reflecting on what we do as with our practice. As you know and you've seen before, the 2020 Vision Plan for 2020, the Yorktown Central School District will cultivate empathy, nurture creativity and innovation, promote critical thinking and authentic inquiry, and provide opportunities to unleash one's ambitions. That's our guiding vision as we move forward with all of our work. At the start of the school year, at our kickoff meeting in late August, Dr. Hatter met with all of the staff and posed 17 questions for our reflection. And I know that the board has seen these before, but I am just going to quickly highlight these 17 questions. To what extent do our course offerings reflect learning demands expected of today's graduate? How do we encourage creativity and innovation? To what extent have we defined our core values in teaching and learning, and how do we measure those values effectively? To what extent do homework assignments reflect clear objectives, opportunities for student voice and choice, appropriate duration, and thinking demands? To what extent do we pose effective, essential questions and enduring understandings in all areas of our curriculum? What opportunities can we offer students who have failed one or more subjects that still allow them the freedom to pursue courses of interest? What structures are in place that give the students unfiltered voice to the superintendent? What is the feasibility of joining the Tri-State Consortium? What is the feasibility of using the program for international student assessment to benchmark our progress for our students towards the 2020 Vision Plan? What is the feasibility of offering online course electives to our high school students? What strategic steps can be taken to support student growth with ACT and SAT scores? To what extent do we offer students opportunities to best position themselves for the college search process? How do we build the capacity of non-teaching staff to work with students? To what extent do we build parents' capacity around supporting their children in learning and wellness? To what extent do we offer summer learning opportunities and bridge programs for learners at different readiness levels? How do we most effectively recruit, develop, and retain the best faculty and staff? And how will we advance and evolve our practices in non-instructional departments to reflect a deep and sincere sensitivity to those we serve? So those 17 questions that were posed to us by Dr. Hatter at the start of the school year really started us on a journey of reflection in the district, and that's what I'm going to speak to you about. You know, the purpose of strategic questioning is really about welcoming and inviting multiple perceptions. It's also about promoting collaborations. It's about inquiry, but it's an inquiry-based approach, and it really helps us in terms of our organizational reflection. Great questions lead to great answers. So how do we reflect on what we're doing, evaluate what we're doing, and make a plan for moving forward? As you can imagine, 17 questions of that magnitude really require a lot of an opportunity to discuss and collaborate with our team. Because there were 17 questions, Dr. Hatter came to us at the start of the school year, and then again with the administrative cabinet shortly after that meeting, and asked the building leadership teams, which questions do you want to tackle in your building this year? Which questions best reflect where you feel the staff can address this year and delve deeply into? So this slide shows that out of the 17 questions, these were the questions that were posed by the various buildings. As you can see, some questions focused on, some questions were addressed by all buildings, some by several buildings, and some by just individual buildings. The process that the principals and building leadership teams took with this was really a process-driven initiative. We looked at, what is this question really asking? How can we further break it apart to clarify and understand it better? What does it involve? What does it mean at the various levels? What examples can we provide? What do we need in next steps? So as a building, as all the buildings, they addressed these questions, and they really came to some good understanding of where we currently are, where we'd like to see ourselves go, and how do we get there. So for example, the middle school this year, in relation to question number 4 regarding homework, they created an informal checklist to consider, for teachers to consider, that address homework objectives like duration, student choice, and thinking demands. At the K-3 level, we started some eSTEAM projects that are collaborative in nature and really work with the students to look at our course offerings and are we preparing students for the next step in their journey. In the high school, we are going to be starting new courses in this school year, Husker Discovery and eSTEAM Discovery, which really came as a result, when we looked at our course offerings. So there was lots of information happening in the buildings in regards to these questions. For those of you who've heard me speak about the Curriculum Council in the past, our Curriculum Council consists of about 55 educators in the district, representing teachers and administrators from every building as well as every department. So at those meetings are 4 or 5 times a year. And at our last meeting on April 18th, I also posed this question to the large group. This is a question that, from my level, really is something that I think we need to put our mind to as well. And it is, to what extent have we defined our core values in teaching and learning, and to what extent do our curricular assessments and rubrics measure those values effectively? That is a that's a question that involves a lot of pulling apart, peeling back the layers, and getting to the meat of how do we answer that, and how are we sure that we're moving in the right direction. So at the Curriculum Council on April 18th, I wanted to focus on just those 3 questions, the 2 that most of the buildings were doing, and the one that really was something that I was interested in exploring. What we did at this Curriculum Council meeting is we did what's called the World Cafe Protocol, and basically what that means is that you break the group into small tables, so it's feels very informal, the staff is talking to each other, and you lay out chart paper on the tables, almost like a tablecloth, and the teachers are asked to come together and really just brainstorm each of these questions. You can jot, you can draw, you can bullet, you can write any of your thoughts, and you have a whole conversation about this. The purpose of doing questions 1 and 2, although they were being addressed in each of the buildings, is I wanted to see where we were from a K-12 perspective in answering these questions. What kind of information are we getting from the teachers and from the administrators in each of the buildings? So really we created a collaborative dialogue around those questions, and had an opportunity to really see what's being explored, what's being discussed at the various level, and share it K-12. So I just wanted to share with you, of those 3 questions, it didn't look like this on the chart paper that they wrote out on the table, but this is basically some of the bullets of the conversation. So as you can see, in response to what extent do our course offerings across grades K-12 reflect the demands expected of today's graduate, we talked a little bit about the need to further align our K-12 curriculum, especially around the changing standards. We talked about the collaborative learning and problem solving that we expect our students to do. We talk, of course, about appropriate levels of rigor, and really how do we define the expectations of the graduates, because it is ever changing, and it's something we have to constantly reflect upon. when we looked at the second question, how do we encourage creativity and innovation? This year we had, as we did last year, we had some design thinking cohorts taking place in our building. This year was at the middle school, last year was at the K-3 buildings. And really, design thinking, the whole focus around that centers on empathy, and you have to be empathetic to be able to understand problems that are happening around the world and then go through the design process to solve them. And you've seen some examples of that over the course of the year with the Good News presentations. We talked about student choice. At a previous curriculum council, we spent the entire meeting talking about how our students given choice and opportunity to guide their own learning. We've talked about project-based learning and how do we define authentic assessments. Was a big question that we're exploring as well. And how do we leverage our instructional time with so much that's happening? How do we really make the most of our instructional time, and instead of add-ons, how do we embed what needs to happen within our existing curriculum? So there were great ideas that were discussed around that area. And then the question that I really posed to the group, to what extent have we defined the core values in teaching and learning, and to what extent do our curricular assessments and rubrics measure those values effectively? How do we measure values? What's our philosophy of teaching? Are we meeting each child's need? We're very embedded in the whole child. How are we making sure that we are doing that? So I walked away from this curriculum council meeting feeling that I had a good handle of where our teachers how our teachers approach these questions and these problem solvings in a way that get us to think more critically about what we do and how we move forward. I thought the meeting, people were very honest and very happy to have the opportunity to give input. So in terms of our next steps at our May curriculum meeting, which is typically how we end up every cycle of curriculum council, we'll continue these discussions. We'll define our curriculum priorities for 18-19, and we'll outline some of our professional development. I think as a collective whole, we certainly understand that content knowledge and the high test scores are no longer the only variables that we need to determine students' future success. And we really value as a district the need to develop sophisticated skills in our students around problem solving, around collaboration, around skills they're going to need to be successful as the world continues to change and grow. And I believe that everything rooted in our eSTEAM initiative will get us there. We just need to be mindful of our journey and be reflective throughout. So I really wanted to come to you tonight and share with you that those 17 questions that were posed by Dr. Hatter really have a purpose and are really something that we continue to work towards and involve all the teaching staff around that. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Lots of them. Lisa?
Thank you for sharing that. So when I look at the slide presentation, one of the slides has the 3 questions that got narrowed down from the 17. Was there a timeline put in place as to when you're going to focus on these 3 particular questions and how you're going to reach some sort of conclusion or ultimate goal on answering the 3? 17 is a lot. Dr. Hatter put out a lofty goal at the beginning of the year, and I think focusing it down to 3 questions was probably a good idea, but do you have a timeline as to when you're going to focus on the 3?
So the buildings all addressed anywhere from 3 to I think 5 or 6 questions based on their particular level. What I was looking to do at the Curriculum Council was to have some consistency K-12 in what we were seeing and what we were doing, and it's always a wonderful opportunity for the high school teachers to hear what's happening in the elementary buildings and vice versa. So it wasn't something that was put in place to have an end date to these answers, because I think a lot of these questions are questions that we'll continue to always be mindful of. I think what I can say is that our next meeting, right now I've shared all this information with the Curriculum Council. I took the notes from what they all brainstormed for all of those questions, and I've shared it. I think what we'll see at the next Curriculum Council are what are some of our district curriculum focus based on this, and what are some more building specific based on the work that they're doing in the classroom. I can't say to you by June we're going to have a solid answer on those 3 questions.
And I think there's another piece to this. When I posed the questions to the organization early on, I think we immediately jumped to solutions as opposed to answers to the actual questions. And What we're hoping to do is first understand what our practice is. And the questions are not intended to operate us from a deficiency model. It's purely for information gathering to understand what our current status is and then determine, gee, is this, just hold up a mirror to ourselves, and is this the reflection that we want to see back when we look into that mirror? So with regard to this year, the hope is that we have a better understanding as to our awareness with regard to just purely our current status, and then we can talk about, well, gee, what does the ideal look like? How does that picture look? And then how do we bridge the gap from where we are to what the perfect vision is? And I do think that'll take a number of years to ultimately get to that point of being at the ideal on all 17 of those questions. But I think the answer to, well, where are we now? I think that goal, hopefully we can address at some point by the end of this year. That's the hope.
Yeah, what I was hearing was there was a lot of self-reflection in what was happening with the writing on the table and the brainstorming. There was a lot of self-reflection, which I think is something, that's the first step in order to accomplish the goal. So I think that that's a good first step in the process.
Right, and so we've already had an opportunity where certain things were already initiated this year based on those questions. But again, I think everyone focusing on 17 questions that all interrelate about how we prepare students, how we treat students, and what we expect our culture to look like. Just having that shared conversation, K-12, unifies us around the work.
My question piggybacks a little bit off of what Lisa said. The top 3 strategic questions that we have, I'm sure we're talking about quite often. How often are we circling back to them, and how often are we circling back to the other 14 to keep them fresh in our mind and to keep moving forward on the journey to, you know, tackle these, or essentially work off of these and address these strategic questions?
So I can speak to, if you go back to that slide, Yvette, that has these, keep going, that one. If you look at that, out of the 17 questions, I believe there are 9 there that were being looked at this year to various degrees in the different buildings. The process that's been done there is that at every faculty meeting, the groups are broken down into teams where they're exploring the questions. And there's a Google Classroom around each of these questions as the teachers are talking about what we currently do, what we could do better, what resources might we need. Those kinds of conversations are happening in the building, but specific this year to those 9 questions. We haven't branched out. Not to say we aren't thinking about them, but the formal process of exploring them is not, we couldn't tackle all 17.
So I have 2 questions. My first one is, goes back to the 14th question. How do we build parents' capacity to support their children in education and learning? And I ask that, you know, as a parent myself, it's one that I know I have limited capacity. So how do parents build on that? And, you know, what are some of your thoughts on how to, you know, build that capacity and that partnership?
So if I'm looking at that correctly, 14 parent, so that was at the middle school and also at the high school. I know they were exploring that. I'm not sure where, I know that at the high school we've provided opportunities this year under the college process, special education processes, all in that regard. We've talked about other ways in which to involve the parents and to give them the help and the skills that we need. We are still hoping this year that Dr. Borba will be a speaker for our parents in an evening coming up. She is the woman who wrote the book on selfie and really guides a lot of our work on empathy. We're hoping to bring her in. So, you know, the more that we can involve supports for parents, I think the better our partnership will continue to grow.
Yeah, great. And then it's a question before that, number 13, you know, building the capacity of our non-teaching staff to, you know, work with our students.
So I think when we see that word, non-teaching staff, Dr. Hatter and I talked about rephrasing that word, because when we look at that, we are also considering our teaching assistants and teacher aides, and they are not necessarily non-teaching. They are part of our instructional process. So we are looking to kind of reframe that language a little bit So the 3 elementary buildings this year who tackled that program have done after-school workshops and information sessions around a variety of topics for our teaching assistants that will help them better prepare for their time in the classroom. There were some behavioral interventions, some interventions I believe related around our math curriculum, around our English curriculum, so that's how we've been addressing that at that level.
Great, thank you.
I just had a question around number 7, students having an unfiltered voice to the superintendent, and maybe Dr. Hatter can talk a little bit about what he's done there and what are some of the topics maybe that the students have brought to your attention.
Sure, so to clarify in general for all 17 questions, they were questioning existing practices. So the way the questions read are, so 7, what structures are in place? So it helps me to understand the organization and what the organizational norms are. In terms of what I have done in terms of giving students that unfiltered voice is there have been several meetings, and they've been small group, they've been larger group meetings. So I can tell you that there have been 4 larger group meetings that I've had with students at this point to just hear what their interests are and what their intent is, and what their, most importantly, what their experience has been, and what they're most proud of about attending Yorktown, and what can we do better. And students have been very candid in their feedback and just wonderfully kind, but candid at the same time. I've also had some small group meetings with students. I've had several of those, and actually in my office I've had groups of 3, 4, and 5 students come in to talk about a specific... Sorry. Good. So I've had groups of 3, 4, and 5 come in to speak to me about things that are of particular interest to them. So again, with all the questions, it was designed, originally the intent from the outset was to understand where we currently were as an organization, and then to subsequently design what the ideal would be, and then a pathway to get from our current practice to the ideal. So in terms of what formal structures are in place, there isn't a formal structure that's in place. I've learned that. I'm interested in beginning a superintendent student council moving forward, where there would be monthly meetings with about 16 high school students, 4 from each grade level. That's something that has certainly piqued my interest that I would be looking to start for this coming September.
Great, thanks.
And I'm not sure if you answered this earlier, but how often do you ask and answer the question? Like, how often does this go on? Is it...
So each of these questions have been part of the faculty meetings, which are once a month in each building.
Okay.
I can't speak to any work that might go on in between that the building teams are working on, but once a month at the faculty meeting, it has been the practice at each meeting. For Curriculum Council, this meeting that we last had in April was the first time we brought it all together from a K-12 perspective.
And then how often is it all together? Annually or?
So Curriculum Council meets 5 times a year. We did miss our February meeting and never got to reschedule it just because of the weather. But for our purposes, bringing it together, it was the first time, but it was actually very effective. And Dr. Hatter and I were talking about ways we can continue some discussion around this moving into next school year.
And also our cabinet meets weekly, and the 4th Thursday of every month is designed to esteem in the strategic questions.
Anthony?
Hello.
So it's interesting. This presentation is one of the best presentations I've seen. I got to be honest with you. It almost becomes a living and breathing document, because I don't know if it's a checklist, because you can't cross any of it off, which is typically a checklist is. You have 17 questions that almost hit every point, but it's an ongoing question. You could just add on. You can never take off. The interesting part about this hitting every basic topic you could hit in education is, can it be answered, any of these questions? Because you can't answer it, you got to see the answer. And the timeline is no timeline. You have to, how do you check something like this? You can't. And it's aggressive, that's for sure. It's aggressive. So I guess if I had to ask a question, because it's brilliant, I mean, it baffles me. I don't get baffled much. I may look silly, but I'm not that silly. But it's how do you approach something like this, even once a month? I mean, you guys are such a busy schedule of education, and you have to engage your staff along with the administrators and students. And the beat is like aggressive. How do you get anything done being this aggressive? No, I'm not. It's funny. It's funny because like I could go down the list. I could remember almost every one of these questions looking through them. And just to try and, you can never, solve is the wrong word. It's not, you don't solve this. You just, it's not the word I'm looking for, but how do you go about your business doing this?
So the people who deserve the credit are the principals and Lisa. And Lisa will never accept any of the credit, but Lisa has done such a masterful job of facilitating so much of this work, and she deserves a ton of credit for shepherding these 17 questions along. And then the building principals are day-to-day working with their faculties, and they've committed, faculty meeting time is very precious. And to commit time during a faculty meeting time, or to create a committee around these, which has happened in the buildings, that's impressive, to devote important time to answering these questions, to reflect on our practice, to determine, gee, what else can we do to get better and improve our practice? Because we could always get better. No matter how wonderful we are, we have to get better.
Can I mean, you have a buy-in from everybody, I would imagine.
So I think what guides us and binds us all together, K-12, no matter what our role is the vision statement that we are all working to. So all of our work, whether it's specific curriculum related to a content area, whether it's, behavioral training for our staff, whatever it is, if we can tie it back to our vision, it makes sense to everyone. So our time is certainly a commodity, but everyone, I believe, in our organization is moving towards how do we do all we can for our students. And because we have that mindset, people go above and beyond and continue to engage in all the work that we ask them to do.
Yeah, just one more, and I'm sorry, because this is one of my favorite, the kids and this, the education one, the rest of my, but this is cool. So do you take the list and actually look at the questions and say, okay, what are we doing today? This is the one that's going to challenge today?
So when I look at the list, I look at the full picture, and I look K-12, and I look at all of our curriculum, and I look at how all of this plays into it. The way the buildings are doing it, it's been divided into certain teams are working on this question, certain teams are working on that question. So it's not, and then they come together and share. So it's not as if every, the middle school who picked 5 or 6 questions, every teacher is invested in those 5 or 6 questions. That work is shared and divided.
Just to say, this is brilliant. I really mean it, because I've been here a long time, right, Jackie? And I've never seen something as brilliant as this, because it's just an ongoing thought of how to make it better. And that's what our kids need and staff needs, is an ongoing thought of just keep pushing it forward and making it better. So you guys have hope if you have kids in school. This is really great, because it mentioned everything that needed to be mentioned.
Just the one thing that the vision and the values are building the culture that is what is going forward. The questions continue to develop the culture, and once you have the buy-in of the staff, it becomes an easy process. And it really is. This is a very cool document, how everything is laid out. It really is. I'm very impressed.
One of the questions I have is obviously each question is a multi-year question and timeline, but at some point, do the other buildings pick up the pieces that they'd have? Because, some buildings pick certain questions, but what about all the other questions?
And
Are they going to try to answer them all?
And I don't want to speak for Dr. Hatter, but I believe that this will guide some of the work from our next curriculum council, which I will, begin that conversation, but with our administrative cabinet over the summer as we talk about what are we doing in terms of our goals for moving forward. And these questions, I'm assuming, will be at the basis of that work.
So each building will answer each question at some point, or
well, some of them are not appropriate to each building. So
homework,
online courses at the high school, that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate everywhere.
Terrific. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. This was awesome. Thank you so much. You guys have worked really hard this year. All right, what are we up to? We're up to the superintendent's update. This one's yours, Ron.
All right. So just I'd like to just begin from here to address a few items, and then I'm going to make my way to the podium to share a brief presentation on the Capital Reserve Report. So I'd like to first begin by acknowledging our robotics team. They competed in Detroit at on the world stage for the first robotics competition. We're so proud of our students who made the trip to Detroit, and they performed so well. They made us all proud here. Congratulations to Jackie Stochel. She presented at the American Association of Neurology annual conference in Los Angeles last week, and she really represented Yorktown with great pride. Congratulations to William Branca. He was selected to present at the Triennial Earth Science Summit in Leesburg, Virginia, and that will happen, I believe, next month. And William was telling me, Dr. Hatter, you're never going to believe it. There's this world-renowned scientist on before me, and this world-renowned scientist after me, and then me, a high school kid. And I said, William, you're every bit as intelligent and as bright as they are, and you deserve to be there. So we're so proud of William. Arbor Day was April 27th. On Friday, I had the privilege of accompanying two of our classes to Town Hall. First grade class, Mrs. Kelsey, and Mrs. Barbara's class at Crom Pond were honored by the town for their work on Arbor Day and in planting trees. It was a wonderful ceremony. Congratulations to students in those classes. We had our National Honor Society induction. We had 84 high school juniors inducted to the Yorktown High School National Honor Society, which is a tremendous, tremendous number of students. Our orchestra and band students traveled to Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. respectively, and they earned superior ratings from the reviewers, and that's something that they're very proud of and we're certainly very proud of in our students. At this time, I'm going to make my way to the podium, and I am going to present on the Capital Reserve. We'll try to make it as fun as we can. So everything that we do, first and foremost, the facilities are the backdrop for the work that we do in education. Obviously, the teaching and learning are crucial and paramount in all of our work as an educational entity, but students need the facilities to do that. So interestingly enough, outside of Hollywood Studios down in Disney World in Florida, you'll read this sign. And Walt Disney said this 50 years ago, more than that. And it's as true today as it ever was. Everything that we do is grounded in this wonderful vision of eSTEAM, with empathy serving as the foundational component of creativity and innovation in the district. Our 2020 vision guides us, and certainly we lead with cultivating empathy. Now, in the words of Tony Wagner, Harvard professor, and you've seen this, I've shared this with you, but I haven't shared it with our community. Students need certain things in this world. In today's economy and today's climate, there are certain outcomes that our learners need to be equipped with. So all of those items there, I won't read the slide to you, but I look at the bottom and I see curiosity and imagination, and I absolutely love seeing that. In order for us to give the students these 7 items that Tony Wagner has identified, we need facilities that are equipped to do that. And our facilities here are wonderful. And the district has made such a great investment in upgrading the facilities, and that investment needs to continue. So just in the summer of 2017, these projects were done. There are so many words on the slide, and Dennis has done such a wonderful job, and the assistant director, Marty Denko, and their staff have done an absolute amazing job in advancing the work of our facilities in-house using our internal capacity. And I can go through, and the projects are broken down by building, and you'll certainly have access to this. The presentation will be posted to our website. I encourage you to go online and see exactly what our wonderful facilities staff has done. I take you to this school year. So after the summer months have concluded and students are back, our facilities staff has not lost steam at all. They continue to do these wonderful projects to ensure that our students are learning in an environment that's commensurate with the education that they're receiving inside of the classrooms. And I can just take you through all of the wonderful work, including over the February break, Dennis's team went through every single school and disinfected. It was the height of flu season. They disinfected every desktop, every chair, every water fountain, every doorknob, every handrail. They did that, and they found the time to do that because it was important, and that's just the measure of a quality facilities team under Dennis's leadership. And now that brings us to the Capital Reserve Fund, because while our team is very skilled and very handy and very capable, there are certain projects that are outside of the scope of their regular work. So the Capital Reserve Fund does a few things for the district. First, it allows the district to maintain its facilities without the need for bonding. And with bonding comes costs. There are interest monies that we need to pay as a district. There are bonding costs and legal fees that are associated with borrowing money. Now, the voters authorized the establishment of a Capital Reserve Fund last May. The Capital Reserve Fund currently is funded at $6 million, and the use of those monies in no way impacts the tax rate. So we're hoping to extract $4 million for capital projects during the summer months of 2019 and 2020. The monies are already in the district's Capital Reserve Fund, so they're there, bless you. However, voters must authorize a withdrawal or deposit of funds from that account, and that's a state law. Authorizing the expenditures, again, will not impact the tax rate, and we're looking at the summers of 1920 because of the approval process at the State Education Department taking time that would certainly be prohibitive from us working using capital reserve monies this summer. So there's still a state approval process that we need to undertake with the projects that we're going to be putting forward. There's a compelling need for every project. There is an important rationale that supports everything that the board and the district administration will be initiating. And some of those have been outlined here and on the next two slides. So the Brookside Servery, Mohansik's Nurses Suite, we're looking really to upgrade those facilities to bring them in alignment with the other district's elementary schools, as well as ensuring that the enrollment growth that we're seeing through our elementary schools is supported with our facilities. The corridor lighting and flooring at Crampon, the E-Steam Lab needs some upgrading at the middle school. Our internal staff has done a wonderful job of remediating that space, but it needs a little more design, and it needs a little more technology, and it needs a little more polish. Our cooling tower at the middle school is beyond its useful life, and that needs to be replaced. Air conditioning on the second floor of the high school. I had the luxury of getting a tour during the hottest day of the summer when I arrived at the district, and it felt that the first place and the only place we went was the second floor of that high school. And it felt as though we stayed there for about an hour and a half in one place. It's as hot as it can get up there, and as I think about children trying to learn in that environment, I think that there must be a better way. And as we talk about heating season running from roughly the middle of October until at some point in March, well, air conditioning season is almost 4 months. It's hot in September when the children come back. Many months, October is not much better, and then there are months where April, May, and June are really, really hot. And now a child preparing for a Regents exam or final exams in a 90-degree classroom is probably not the most favorable condition to reflect the quality education taking place within the walls of those classrooms. The electrical main feed from the high school to the middle school, that's the original, the bleacher replacement and repair. Those are the original bleachers in the high school gym, and they look every bit of it. They look every bit of original. And we're hoping with the use of the capital reserve funds, we can have that gym commensurate with the rest of the facilities. We have a gorgeous auditorium and such gorgeous facilities throughout the district, and the gym can use some enhancements as well. The electrical main feed to the high school and middle school, that's certainly the original line coming into the district. There's much work to be done to replace that, to make sure that it's safe, to make sure that it's encapsulated, to make sure that any digging going further for plantings or whatever renovations we have would certainly protect those contractors doing the work, as well as the electrical system coming into the high school, middle school campus. I started with the vision, I end with the vision. This is what it's all about. And interestingly enough, when Dennis and I love interviewing candidates with Dennis. There's no interview time too early for Dennis, and there's no interview time too late when you're interviewing with Dennis. And what we tell all of the employees who we meet with is about our brand, and the Yorktown brand. And the Yorktown brand is a world-class brand. And their work is just as important as any other employee or representative of this district because our facilities need to match the quality education that the children are receiving within the classrooms. So I end with that. I will let you know that there's a sense that something really special is happening. We're influencing the future. And so I just pulled a quote from Steve Jobs that really speaks to me, and I hope speaks to you as well. And just a reminder to our community, the budget vote, capital reserve fund authorization, and trustee election will take place on May 15th. That's a Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. The location is the Mohansick School Elementary School. It's a gymnasium around back. And at this point, I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you. I know the committee has worked hard to try to come up with these projects because there are so many projects. This is not even a small part of the number on our list. And ask Dennis, he can keep getting a list longer and longer every time you ask. He shakes his head yes. But these projects are critical. And so I really hope that the community comes out and supports the projects and supports the fact that we're continuing the bond work. The $37 million bond is done, but the work is still left to be done. Although we did complete every project on that list, there are just more that grew in 10 years, right? Does anybody have any questions? Anthony, any questions? Pete? Mike? Rashmi? Cheryl? Go right ahead.
So if the fund was established, and I don't know who the question should be addressed to, maybe Tom, I don't know. If the fund was established in May of 2017, and voting yes would have no impact on the tax rate, what would be the downside to voting yes?
Me voting no. Oh, there'd be no down, oh,
What's the
downside. Oh, downside. Oh,
There isn't one that I can see.
The benefit to us is that we've demonstrated, I believe, in past presentations that we've spent millions upon millions of dollars in interest expense on borrowed money. And we believe that the upside, the tremendous upside, is that we get the work done without having to spend all of that money unnecessarily. So from my standpoint, I don't see a downside to voting yes on this.
Yeah. Would you agree with that, Dr. Hatter?
I would. I really don't see the downside here. There isn't an impact to the estimated tax rate. We're already forecasting a below zero tax rate. So this is, I think, a wonderful opportunity for the district and the community to rally around the schools and to give the facilities the enhancements that they need.
Right. Thank you.
when we set the, when we proposed the capital reserve, and we had many discussions about setting it, the point was, we knew that we could get more done with cash because you didn't have the added expense. You pay for it, you're done, and you can move on. We're still paying for projects were done well before any of us were on the board. And so they begin to lose their useful life, and you're still paying for them in a lot of cases. In this case, it doesn't work that way. So we're all good? Okay. What are we up to now? Board reports. Okay, we could start with the audit committee. It's Rashmi.
If you remember, at the last meeting, the board adopted the resolution to appoint the external auditor. So we have been in touch with them and to work towards the dates for the year-end audit. So they are coming in at the end of August, and Tom and his team are in touch to figure out what they would need prior to coming out here. That's it.
Okay. Fiscal advisory?
So Fiscal Advisory Committee has a meeting coming up this Thursday morning to review year-end projections for not capital reserve, but our overall reserves and the status relative to our budget, and to bring back to the board any recommendations on any year-end items.
Am I on that? What time is that?
The email said 8:30.
8:30?
Yes.
I didn't get that email.
I'll double check your address then.
Thank you. Well, I didn't
You're
see
welcome.
it. I read my emails.
Let's see.
Actually, I'd like to welcome Lisa Roll as our newest addition to the policy committee, as well as our newest member of the board. And what's that? And audit, yeah. And she's a welcome addition because she brings a legal background, which is a great resource for us on that committee. So we're happy to have you on board, Lisa. It's been a while since I think I've provided an update. So since then, I think we've had probably about 3 meetings. And in those 3 meetings, we've gone through about 10 first reads. We've adopted 7 policies and deleted 9. Our next meeting is set up for May 22nd, and probably our next Board of Ed meeting, or the one after that, we'll have a final wrap-up for the entire year, and we'll give you our tallies for everything we've accomplished. And I think we've hit our goal, so and that's 10 per meeting.
We've finished whole sections of the
Yes,
policy manual.
yeah.
Come on, that feels
I
good,
know,
doesn't it,
yes,
Cheryl?
it does. Yeah.
Steering committee, we haven't met in a while. We have to get a meeting on the books. The Brookside parking lot is out to bid. They're opening the bids tomorrow. The plan is that that work will be done this summer. And then we want to meet pretty soon to start the capital reserve project and the planning. You know, one of the pieces that Ron neglected to say is that it's not just getting through SED. We can't really start the design process till we're have the money approved, because we can't put the cart before the horse. So everything is got to start to happen soon. So we will start having a lot of meetings. Okay. Up to policy adoption. A motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the following policies. We have 9290 staff attendance at conferences and workshops, 9430 staff co-curricular assignments and allocations, and 9645 disclosure of wrongful conduct. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? A motion that be resolved that the following policy and regulations shall be deleted from the policy manual because they are either obsolete, unnecessary, or included with under policies. We have 8,000 support services goals and 8110 regulations, a school safety building regulation. All those in favor? Opposed? We have first reads. The board will conduct the first read of the following policies. We have 2710 communication among board members, 5422 headlights, 8110 school building safety, or school safety building. School safety building, that's not right. And 8112 health and safety committee, 8115 pesticides and pest management. So does anybody have any questions on any of them? It's school building, health, and safety. The name of the policy is wrong. No questions? Okay, thank you. So we are up to budget, board action. We have a budget discussion, okay. Tom, do you want to give us, or Ron, do you want to give us a recap on where we stand right now, and then we can move on to questions if we have them?
The budget as it is currently constituted is $97,930,000. It represents a decrease from last year's budget of $240,000. We're currently estimating tax reductions in all 3 municipalities. In Yorktown of minus 0.22%, in Newcastle minus 1.18%, and in the town of Cortland minus 2.89%. We comply with the tax cap. The total estimated levy increase is 9/100ths of 1%.
Okay, questions, Lisa? Cheryl? Questions? Mike? Anthony? Pete?
That works.
The administration worked really hard on this, and I want to thank them. I just want to ask, legal fees have stayed steady over the years. Is there anything in the horizon that could make them start to creep up? We seem to get a lot of, not a lot of litigation, but a lot of things creep up, and everything nowadays is so litigious, you have to go right to your lawyer. So is that something we need to keep our eye on for future years?
Yes, we had this discussion the other day, Mrs. O'Shea and Dr. Hatter and myself, that the trend is upward, and that we may well exceed our budget this year slightly, but we don't have enough of a sample size to come to you and say that we really want to increase the budget this year, but we may well be coming back next year with that recommendation.
Okay. All right, So if there's no other questions, and we've thanked everybody, resolved that the annual school district budget for the fiscal year 2018-2019 in the amount of $97,930,000 and the requisite portion thereof to be raised by taxation on the taxable property of the district be approved.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Please, community, come out and vote on May 15th, Mohansick School. Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 19th, April 16th, and April 24th meetings.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Treasurer's report, a motion to approve the treasurer's report for March 2018.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion to approve the claims audit report for March 2018. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to approve the extra classroom activity report for March 2018.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Personnel? My computer froze. There we go. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, a motion that the following be approved. We have part-time or temporary appointments, other compensation. We have the resignation of Suzanne Daria and Lou Chiaffi. Under classified personnel, we have appointments for civil service and in addition to the substitute list.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Dr. Hatter, did you want to say anything?
Just thank you. Thank you to both individuals for their service to the school district. We certainly wish them well.
Wonderful. We have a memorandum of agreement, whereas the negotiating teams for the Yorktown Central School District and the Yorktown Congress of Teachers executed a memorandum of agreement dated April 30th, 2018 for a 4-year successor collectively negotiated agreement to the one that expires on August 31st, 2018. Whereas the board is required by law to approve the expenditure of additional monies required to fund the provisions of the collectively negotiated agreement, now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby ratifies the memorandum of agreement between the district and the union covering the period from September 1st, 2018 through August 31st, 2022, and authorizes the funding of those monies necessary to implement the provisions of the 2018 to 2022 collectively negotiated agreement. The memorandum of agreement shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting.
So moved.
Discussion. I just want to thank you, Dr. Hatter, and your team. I mean, we are 5 months before the actual end of this contract, and that doesn't happen very often. So I thank you for the very collaborative effort. I thank the YCT for collaboratively negotiating this, and we thank everybody. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, business office. Physical therapy contract. Resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby accepts the proposal submitted by Dr. Jacqueline Arno for physical therapy services as presented to the board at this meeting for the 2018-19 school year, and resolved that the president of the Board of Ed is hereby authorized to execute the agreement with Dr. Jackie Arno for physical therapy services upon approval of such agreement by the school district's attorney.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have budget transfers as listed below.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the contract for the Klondike 9 pursuant to the terms of the attached contract, which has been reviewed and approved by the school district attorney, and hereby authorizes the board president to execute said contract.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Kids love that trip. A motion to approve the following contracts for health and welfare services provided to resident pupils attending non-public schools in other districts for the 17-18 school year, Katona and White Plains. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have a motion to approve the cross-contract with Eastern Suffolk BOCES for BOLD, the election management services for the 18-19 school year at a total cost of $9,844.81.
Second discussion.
Go ahead.
Somebody explain what this is exactly.
BOLD?
The software that our district clerk uses for the voter registration and the management of those rolls.
Got it. Thank you.
It eases the whole process.
I thought it was the something for the election itself.
Oh,
This
no,
is the
no.
registration system.
Yeah. All right, lead evaluators. Be it resolved that pursuant to the requirements of Education Law 3012D and Part...
Accept the last one.
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry. That's right. All right, now, be it resolved that pursuant to the requirements of Education Law, Section 3012D and Part 32.9 of the Regents' Rules, the following persons have completed all the required training to be certified by this Board of Education as lead evaluators of classroom teachers, and the list is below.
So moved.
Go ahead.
So as part of the teacher evaluation system, the process, all of our building administrators and all of the district administrators who observe teachers for part of their observation and their evaluation score need to have lead evaluator training each year to maintain that ability to continue to observe teachers.
And what was the process in getting this certification?
I'm sorry. So each year we engage in training. It's about 6 hours of training, which is a recertification. Initial certification we do through BOCES. Our new administrators would go to BOCES for that. For the recertification, it's 6 hours. We had 2 separate sessions this year of 3 hours looking at videos of classroom instruction, interrelated reliability to make sure that we're all, scoring within a reasonable expectation of each other. We talked about special areas that you would observe for a teacher who teaches certain populations like ENL and special education.
Thank you.
We call this another unfunded mandate. All those in favor? Opposed? Now be it resolved that pursuant to the requirements of Section Law 3012D and Part 30.2.9, the Regents' Rules, the following persons have completed all the required training to be certified by this Board of Education as lead evaluators of building principals.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Special ed. A motion to approve the following special ed placements as of April 30th, 2018.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And gifts, grants, and donations. A motion to accept with gratitude at the Yorktown High School, a $1,000 grant from Mr. Alexander Pulu for the Yorktown High School Robotics, for Mildred E. Strang Middle School, $500 from the CauseCast Foundation through the Regeneron Employee Matching Grant Program, and Mr. Keith Anderson at Mohansick, $1,050 from the Mohansick PTA to fund Farm to Table Program, $900 from the PTA to fund the Butterfly Program, $758.08 to fund the author visit, and $750 for the Mohansick PTA to fund the Around the World Day Assembly.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you for the very generous donations. We are up to board comment. Anthony.
Thank Mohansick. It's always cool seeing the kids. Great educational presentation again. Thank you.
P.
Also, just again, a great night with the presentations and great job on the budget, and it knows a long process. So I was telling Anthony, it's in my 23 years, I haven't seen a number like that.
Mike?
Yeah, Mohansick, the students were great, always a fun part of the meeting, and I would also like to commend the administration on wonderful job putting the budget together. Not just the numbers, but any of the items that came up that we had questions about, they were very able to respond quickly and with a lot of insight. So that's very helpful when we're trying to digest all of the different line items to have that. So thank you all for a great job.
Great job on the budget. It was wonderful to see the Mohansick students, and also a shout out to our high school robotics team for making it to Detroit at the World Fest. And we also have a 9th grader in Yorktown and a 7th grader in Yorktown that won first prizes in robot programming. So, the 30,000 teams worldwide, it's truly an honor. So, great job.
Cheryl?
Yeah, great job to the Mohansick students. Since we're approaching the end of the year, I also wanted to say thank you to our staff who comes out to support our students at our Board of Ed meetings at 7 o'clock at night, taking time away from their own families. Teaching really is a never-ending job, and they're constantly here to support their students. So I just wanted to give them a shout-out tonight to say thanks for all of your commitment and dedication to our students. throughout all of our meetings and throughout all that you do every day.
Lisa?
Yeah, so Dr. Hatter, I don't know whose smile was bigger, yours or Mrs. Berry as her students were reading their story, or yours when Jackie read the Memorandum of Agreement of the teacher's contract. So congratulations to you, because you're just as proud of that agreement as Mrs. Berry was of her students. So great job. Wonderful evening.
We are getting towards the end of the year, and a lot of the hard stuff is over, so we get to some of the good stuff, but, well, no, it is. We've got through the budget, we've got through negotiations, you guys have come out shining, it's been wonderful, and we're getting towards the end of our presentations with our kids, and they've just been so enormously talented. The level of education in this district shines through when you see even the youngest kids with their language and their ability to present, and it's just a testament to all of our staff members, to the administration, to the way you've led them, and what our teachers have done. So I'm so proud of them all. So I thank everybody. I please encourage everybody to come out to vote. I know I'm still early by a couple of meetings, but please remember to put that on your calendar and come out to vote. Ron, Lisa, Tom, anything?
Just a couple of, not that I want to prolong the meeting anymore, it's been wonderful to this point. Wednesday night, May 2nd, I'll be delivering an eSteam budget presentation to our community. This was really targeted for anyone who does not have children in the school district who wants to learn a little bit more about eSteam. 6:30 p.m. at Crampon School. It'll be in the library because they're forecasting 85-degree temperatures on Wednesday. May 10th, the Student Senate is sponsoring the Senior Citizen Prom. If you're watching this at home, it should be a great time. I'll talk budget and eSteam at that event as well, so I hope you come out for that one, and then we'll do some dancing. May 15th is the budget vote and trustee election. May 21st is our 10-year recognition night. And now we're in concert and recognition season. So check our website. There's a whole series of events that are posted to the calendar. Please do come out, support our schools, support the students. They work so hard to practice and get their presentations down. And I hope you can make it. That's all for me.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good night, everybody.